let me begin. We want to welcome you to the partnership meeting, and this is being organized by members of the Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition, which is a statewide group of organizations that seek to reform the child support system. So I'm going to start with it's a brief meet and greet, and it's just maybe no more than a minute or so, and it's where everyone provides their name, their organization that they're affiliated with, and what motivated them to become interested in child support reform. I'll start with myself. I'm Jeannie Faya. I'm a supporter of Dad's Evoking Change, which was founded by Kareem Chadley, who's also participating on this call. And what motivated me to become interested in child support reform, I'm the daughter of a mother from Oklahoma and a father who came from Peru. And they got married in the late 50s. But eventually, by the time I was 10, they were separated and divorced. And I grew up with my mother, and my mother had physical custody, and my dad, was a visiting parent. And fast forward later, a very brief dating relationship, many years ago, to a divorced dad opened up my eyes to the biases and the challenges that non-custodial parents face. And my subsequent involvement in father advocacy organizations led to my developing a closer, more loving relationship with my father during the last few years of his life until he died in 2005. And last I remember going to a rally up in Sacramento, it was about 2015, and I met the pastor of a church in Fresno, and was located in a low-income area. And he talked about a number of fathers he knew that were being jailed because they could not afford to pay child support. And I tried to locate, what was available for them, what services, what supports. And I really was very upset and outraged that it's almost like there was really nothing available that I knew of that could help them. And it's for reasons like this why I joined, and I am part of the Truth and Justice in Child Support Coalition. So who would like to next introduce themselves?
I'll go ahead and go. My name is Kareem Chadley. I am the founder and executive director of Dad's Evoking Change. What drew me to this work in particular was some of my own experiences trying to go through the child support systems. In my situation, I just found that there was a lot of biases and there was a lot of hurdles that were put into place for fathers who are actively trying to participate, qualified fathers who are actively trying to participate in their kids' lives. So after going through my own personal situation, I founded Dad's Evoking Change in hopes to help low income and in particular fathers of color as they navigate through the child support systems. It's good to be here with everybody.
Rachel, would you like to go next?
Yes, hi everyone. It's nice to see you all today. My name is Rachel Freitas. I am formerly with the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement. I was there for almost 15 years, leaving last year. And now I'm helping out with the Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition. I am really excited for this call today and to have a conversation with you all. And I think that the child support program is an incredibly helpful program in many ways in getting support to families, but also has a lot of areas for improvement and areas where we need to we need to reform the program and change the laws and make sure that all the money is going to the families that need it, and it's not seen as a payback program to the government. So as I said, I'm excited to talk more about that today. Thank you.
Next, Terry.
Yeah, I'm Terry with the Center for Fathers and Families, Director of Adult Services. I oversee the lives and fatherhood of hundreds of fathers per month, and I've seen the negative effects of child support with the inability to modify necessary times. I've seen, fathers be practically homeless or put in positions where they're overworking and don't have the opportunity now to spend time with their children. So I'm all for reform and something that empowers dads or parents in general to be more active and more, participate more, because I think that benefits the children. So there's a gap in the middle that I'm interested in bringing together. I'm excited to be on here.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, we have, would Rhodey like to?
Sure, certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I feel like engaging in conversations with systems is the catalyst, for systems change. And so I'm happy to be at this meeting to learn more about what the organizer is thinking and about the reforms that they're talking about. I work with Rubicon programs. I'm the director of community-based programs. And we've had Health and Human Services fatherhood contracts for the last 8 years. And we've been working with the Contra Costa County Department of Child Support as they are changing their messaging to fathers and to parents about not so much of child support being enforcement, but being more of a support. So the work that we're doing with them with our program is furthering that effort where the community members are seeing child support as more as an opportunity to be able to have the right to visit their children when they want to, if they're being compliant, as opposed to just being some enforcement arm that takes their driver's license and garnishes their check. As somebody said before, it's about meeting in the middle and making the system better.
Morning, I just noticed Armando Alcaraz, he just signed in. So if you just joined very recently, I'm asking, this is the meet and greet part where people supply their name, their organization they're with, and very brief description of what motivated you to become interested in child support reform. So I did see him. Now I don't know if I see him again, but just want to let him know. So now we will open it up to those of you who haven't introduced yourselves yet. That would be Sevely, Terry Kim. We have Armando.
Yes.
Okay. Back again.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm interested. I've been a director for the last year of the PAPAS program in Santa Cruz County. And so we have supported fathers and their families in having better relationships with their partner, with a co-parent, with their children, and with the community. And I was interested in looking because being in the program, we had seen just a lot of stories that sometimes that it's hard to understand sometimes. Like different rules that come with child support, and it creates a lot of difficulties for families that are sometimes not as clear cut what the best solution would be. So my interest was in just kind of like listening to different ideas of people that are thinking about this and how it could be a better system.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think the rest are the members of the Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition. So, for instance, Ellie and Ryan Berryman, and those of you who have not yet introduced yourselves.
Want us to just jump in, Jeannie?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Julia Root, she, her, hers, and I'm with the Center for Employment Opportunities, a member of the Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition as well. My organization CEO is a reentry employment provider, so we work with people recently released from incarceration. As we all know, there's a lot of wage garnishment, a lot of interest that has a lot of negative impacts in that time frame after release. So this year, really quick, with the coalition, we were able to pass AB 2325, which modified child support orders once a parent is incarcerated. So it's really exciting to be a part of the conversation today to learn more about what we can do for next year.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie McDaniel. As Jeannie mentioned, I am also with the Truth and Justice and Child Support. I'm a program coordinator at Children's Institute, which we joined the coalition back in 2019 to better empower and support our fathers in our Project Fatherhood program. It was started back in 1996, but I started just a year ago, and so I'm very excited to start getting further into the work.
I'll follow up with Ellie. Hi, everyone. Terry Kim with Children's Institute. We are members of the Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition. I guess just maybe a little helpful with Children's Institute. We're obviously here on behalf of our fathers and Project Fatherhood and really uplifting their stories and experiences and engaging in the space of child support and where we can support the advocacy for systemic change. This is a new space for both Ellie and I, so we're excited about the coalition and all the work that has been done and just to be a part of this conversation. But Children's Institute, we are located in Los Angeles, and we provide multitude of services for children and families through a dual generation support, really focused on addressing trauma that families and children and communities experience. And so a variety of mental health services, strengthening families' work, so keeping families healthy and whole that are connected with the system, as well as early childhood education. And so fatherhood, obviously, our Project Fatherhood program is just wrapped up into our integrated work of supporting children as well as families. So thank you for hosting this discussion today.
Good afternoon. My name's Ryan Berryman. I'm here in San Bernardino, California. My background, professional background, is working with child welfare and children and family services with the county of San Bernardino. I was there for 20 years. And just recognizing the disparity with regards to services to men, fathers, and that kind of drove me into working with Truth and Justice and Child Support. I offer a nonprofit organization past 4 years, it was 4 years in September, offering services such as parenting class, life skills, training, domestic violence prevention education, and also providing resources in the community such as Daddy and Daughter Dance, Father's Day Weekend of 66ers, social activities which include fathers. Just recognizing there's not a lot available for fathers, and the need to have a fatherhood program with the spirit of encouraging fathers to be more responsible, with the whole ideal of benefiting children, benefiting mothers, and benefiting our community. So I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to see everyone here as well. Thank you.
I think we have Sevely now, and Sevely, Sean Young, Ivana,
I can go. Sorry, my mute button was being weird. Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Silverly, and I'm with the Children's Defense Fund California. Pronouns are they, them, theirs. Really here to understand how the child support system is taking away from particularly low-income families, and resources are being pushed away from families, particularly with the pass-through rate, but also like the criminalization of non-custodial parents. I think it's something really big that kind of brings me here today, because we're seeing that there's, that there's excessive debt that non-custodial parents are experiencing. Therefore that's resources not going to children in children and their custodial parents. So really just trying to challenge how that system just operates and how it becomes a machine that really profits off of the backs of low-income families and takes away from young people. So that kind of brings me here today to see. And I'm also part of the Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition.
Fantastic. Now we have, let's see, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for being late. I'm Jamie Austin with Tipping Point, and I've been working on this issue for about two and a half years. It's really exciting to have lots of folks who are interested and want to make change here, because this is such an awful, racist, all the bad adjectives system. So I'm really thankful for people who are involved and who want to learn more.
Fantastic, thank you. And whoever has not yet spoken, feel free to introduce yourselves.
Ivana, I'm with Legal Services for Prisoners for Children. I'm Family Unity Coordinator at LSPC, and our focus and purpose and goal is to strengthen communications with families and incarcerated loved ones before, during, and after incarceration. And we work on tackling challenges and barriers that are an obstacle for family reunification during incarceration, after incarceration, and child support being one of those. So that's what we work on. That's why we're here.
This is Rita Hyams. I'm with LSPC also, Legal Services for Prisoners with Children.
Hey everyone, this is Sean with the San Francisco Financial Justice Project. Pronouns are he, him. Obviously our organization sort of works at the intersection of find and fee justice and a lot of these incredibly salient issues that we're talking about here today. So, again, like our interest in this is not just, making sure that, low-income families are supported and our government and society supports folks. It's also making sure that government is not profiting off of the backs of low-income communities who are really just trying to get by.
Okay, fantastic. I think we have everyone accounted for. I just wanted to add that we have a couple of parents that will also give their stories later on in our meeting. So now the next part of the agenda that we'll go to will be it's the informational presentation, and Rachel will begin that, and she'll handle part of the presentation, and then I'll handle the last part of the presentation that covers the very, very innovative programs and strategies that are being undertaken by other states besides California. So we'll start with Rachel's part of the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Jeannie. I'm excited to be here and talk with you all, as I mentioned earlier. And we thought we would start off our meeting to have just some general background information, sort of set the scene, talk about the current situation of large accumulation of debt in the child support community that is owed to state and federal governments, and talk about some innovative new practices out there to look at this issue before we open it up to the larger conversation. So I'm going to start with just the background information, talking about a pilot project in this area, and then Jeannie's going to discuss some innovative programs outside of California in other states, what other states are doing. So to start with, in our conversation about child support debt that is owed to state governments, this is a very, very large issue. Actually, in California, 70% of the child support debt is owed to the state and federal government, not to individual families. How this works is that when low-income families apply for or sign up for public benefits for cash assistance, the TANF program, for Medi-Cal, for some other social service programs, they are also required, if the parents don't live together, they're also required to open a child support case. And they're referred to the child support program. And so then when they're receiving public benefits, the child support payments that are paid during that time are collected by the state to reimburse the state and federal costs of these programs. So basically, they're looking to low-income families to reimburse the states for the safety net, which is money that should rather be sent directly to these low-income families and to provide the resources to them directly. So there's a lot of flexibility at the federal level in terms of how the money is, if it's collected, how it's collected, and states have the option to pass through certain amounts of the child support. When a family is on cash assistance, if the child support's collected, they can pass through up to the full amount, but they have the option to determine however much they do pass through directly to the family. And in California, just this summer in the governor's budget, the pass-through was increased up to $100 for one child, or up to $200 if there are two or more children in the family. So that money does go directly to the family, but the rest of the money is retained by the state to cover the cost to the state. On top of that, if a parent cannot afford to pay the child support at the time the children are on public assistance, a debt accumulates, and it accumulates every month that it isn't paid and accrues, and then an interest is applied to the top of that. And states determine what the interest rate is, and in California, it's set at a high rate of 10%. So as the debt accumulates over time, it's also getting interest on top of that, which makes it for very insurmountable amounts for low-income parents. So there are multiple concerns with this, as you can imagine. First, requiring parents to pay back public assistance benefits deprives low-income children of receiving these important resources from their parents directly. In California, in fiscal year 17 to 18, California collected $368 million in child support payments to pay back these state costs. That's $368 million that could be going directly to low-income families that need that money so desperately. In addition, this debt is very burdensome to parents. Studies show that 70% of all child support debt is owed by parents making less than $10,000 a year. These are parents with very low incomes who do not have the resources to pay back large amounts of debt within their own lifetime. These are large amounts of debt put on low-income individuals. And as I mentioned earlier, there's also the issue of the interest and the interest rate growing that debt even larger. As well, this policy disproportionately impacts families of color. children of color are more than 3 times as likely as white children to receive TANF, and Black children are 5 times more likely to receive public assistance. So the families in the child support caseload are disproportionate, and these policies strongly affect families of color. Another reason this is of concern is because the debt creates conflict between parents and makes co-parenting even more difficult. There are times when the custodial parent may not know the other parent is paying child support because it's being collected by the state, or they don't know the full value of that support. And there can be a lot of conflict with this because the money is not going directly to the child. Research shows that parents that owe debt, they're less likely to have significant contact with their children. They're less likely to be engaged with their children and provide less in-kind support, such as purchasing diapers or sneakers or taking the kids to the movies. Having this burden of debt affects both parents in many ways and is not in the best interest of the family, the children, or the co-parents at all. So now I'd like to briefly cover some innovative research that just came out of San Francisco County in the last few years and talk about this debt relief project that was a very innovative pilot and the findings from this effort. So San Francisco County Department of Child Support Services, along with the state agency, they conducted a pilot study with funding from private foundations, the Tipping Point Foundation and the Walter and Elise Haas Foundation, who provided funding to be able to alleviate some of the debt on child support, on parents in the child support program. There was also support from the San Francisco Financial Justice Project that helped with the pilot, as well as the evaluation was conducted by the Urban Institute. And so how it worked is private dollars were used to pay down a portion of the state-owed debt for these parents that participated in the study. And how it works is in California, there's a program called the COPE program, and it stands for Compromise of Arrears Program, where county child support agencies on a case-by-case basis have the ability to negotiate debt reduction plans with parents for state-owed debt. And they can either set up an agreement where the parent may pay a small lump sum payment, a fraction of the amount of debt, and then the rest will be waived. Or the parent may be able to enter into a payment plan committing to so many months of consistent payments. And then after that time, the remainder of the balance of the debt will be removed. So as I said, it's a case-by-case opportunity within the child support program. And so the San Francisco project used that flexibility to then pay off a piece of the debt of these parents participating in the program using private dollars, and then the rest of the debt was waived. And so the parents then had all of their debt completely eliminated and removed. So moving forward, all their child support payments, 100% of the payments went directly to their kids, went straight to their families. And the evaluation of the pilot found some amazing findings. They found there were more consistent child support payments from parents in this program because they knew that the funds were going to their families. So the payments were more timely. The parents reported less stress and anxiety because the debt burden had been lifted. So they felt that immense relief from having the debt taken care of. Evaluators also found improved credit scores, housing status, and reported feelings of control over personal finances. So there were effects outside the child support program in terms of a parent's overall financial health and ability to find more stable housing and providing opportunities because of better credit ratings. The parents also experienced reduced barriers to unemployment because there was no longer the debt. That meant the license suspensions were lifted, so there were no driver's license suspensions or professional license issues or liens or anything placed on personal accounts. So it helped them find employment and reduce those barriers. And then very importantly, the parents reported improved relationships with their children and with the co-parent, so that it just helped them in improving their relationship with their kids and the other parent. And finally, they also reported improved relationships with the child support agency itself, with the county agency. They realized that the county that they didn't feel the county was biased against them, that the county heard their concerns, wanted to work with them, and was a partner with the parents through this process. So I just wanted to briefly highlight this pilot study because I think it's an example of locally within California of some really innovative thinking about how to look at child support debt, state-owed debt, the impact on families, and ways to alleviate that and to evaluate the effect. And the findings were powerful that this does help children and parents very significantly. The report is on the Urban Institute's evaluation report is on the Truth and Justice in Child Support website, which Jeannie's going to show at the end. So if you want to look at the full report, please go to the website and you can download it from there and learn more details. So now I'm going to pass it over to Jeannie so she can talk about some interesting programs that are happening in other states as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. Yes, I conducted some research on fact sheets prepared by the Aspen Institute, and there's one about that looks at the debt reduction programs available in other states. So I'm going to share an Excel sheet, just kind of like a little snapshot. Okay, well, sometime I'll bring it up. The types of programs that they operate, they're basically divided into a few main categories. And the first one is the category of equitable debt reduction, and that's when a parent, asks the state, for relief because he or she just simply can't afford to pay the full amount of debt due to disability or unemployment or incarceration or other reasons. And these types of strategies they're operated more of a case-by-case basis, where, for instance, if a parent is in if a parent's in Washington, they'll go to a conference board. And if a parent is in Michigan, they can go to apply to the friend of the court. Or if a parent lives in the state of Washington, they can ask for an individual case review with a county child support worker. So this category is, it's a more individualized, opening up a case and reviewing it, that type of effort. The second category is capping the amount or placing limits on the amount of child support debt. And the only state that operates, at least in this survey, that operates a type of program is New York. And so, for instance, if a parent, if their income falls below the federal poverty level, they can apply to have their child support debt limited at no more than $500. And then they can also apply to make monthly payments that are no more than $25 per month. Personally, I think this is a very, very innovative program. The third category we'll look at is debt compromise and matching programs. And that's where the state gives a parent like a matching credit or agrees to compromise the remainder of the child support debt that they owe. And as long as the parent makes a partial debt payment on their end, and 2 states offer this type of program, New York and California. We'll first look at New York. New York will agree to reduce the amount of a parent's state-owed child support debt dollar by dollar, as long as the parent can make a lump sum payment of at least $500. So, for instance, if a parent owes like $1,000 of child support debt, state-owned, and they make a lump sum payment of $500, they can have the remainder of the debt erased. And then, as far as California's program, as Rachel discussed, as Rachel discussed earlier, if the parent makes a partial debt payment, then the state will agree to compromise and reduce the remainder of their state-owed child support debt. And the good news about California's program is, according to recent statewide data, 88% of state-owed debt is being compromised, and actually only 12% of state-owed debt is being collected. So the fourth category we'll look at is debt reduction in exchange for consistent payments. And that's where the parents can get state-owed child support debt relief in exchange for just simply making regular monthly child support payments. 3 states offer this type of approach: Maryland, Illinois, and New York. And Maryland, if you're a parent in Maryland, you're low income, and you make, regular monthly child support payments for, say, 12 months, the state can reduce the amount of debt that you owe by 50%. And if you make regular monthly child support payments for 24 consecutive months or more, then the state can reduce the remainder of your arrears by 100%. As for Illinois, if you make regular, consistent monthly child support payments for at least 6 months, then you can get the state to reduce the remainder of your debt by 100%. And then New York has a kind of, it's a little bit different, where as long as the parent makes consistent monthly payments, then the state can reduce the amount of debt owed by up to $5,000 per year. So the fifth and last category that we're going to look at is debt reduction in exchange for participating in a program, like a job training program or a parent education program. And for instance, Iowa and Kansas operate programs like that. Like in Iowa, if you participate in like a job training program or parent education, and you make regular monthly payments, you can get the state to cancel up to 50% of your state-owed debt. And and if you if you keep it up for 12 months, the state will cancel 100% of the state-owed debt. Kansas operates a program that's similar, so that if you take a vocational training program, a parent education program, financial literacy, then the state can reduce the amount of state-owed child support debt. And lastly, New York has something where you can get child support debt reduced by signing up for a state-approved program like substance abuse, or they're actually looking to expand, the number of programs they offer to include things like parenting classes and job training. So in sum, my review is that the programs offered by Iowa and Kansas sound very innovative in that they connect parents to supports like job training and parental education and stuff like that in exchange for having reduced child support debt. And I saw that as particularly innovative. So all the categories I've covered so far, all 5 cover state-owed debt. Now, Michigan and New York also have programs that address family-owed debt. And, that's also an option in case anyone, there is enough interest in this. Now, the last thing I'll address is, how does California stack up compared to the other states? Well, I noticed room for improvement. In particular, the Aspen, the report I read. Now, I could be wrong, but the program offered in California, I'm not sure if it offers the potential for 100% of the state-owed debt to be eliminated. I know that just about all the other states' programs in the survey have that potential. They have that option, that potential. And then also another thing that I noticed that there could be room for improvement is there does not appear to be direct access to supports like parent education programs, vocational training, things that could help make it easier for the parent to reduce the amount of their child support debt. And this is what Iowa and Kansas have. And then there's also the issue about the required partial debt payment. And that's something that many other states just don't require. So the last is the application process. I read that could be particularly difficult for parents to have to navigate. So it's for these reasons I just suggest taking a look at the approaches offered by other states. And let me pull up the Excel sheet if I can. Okay. Let me try to share it again. There we go. Can you see the Excel sheet? So that has all the categories listed: equitable debt relief, and capping debt accumulation, debt compromise, which is California's program, incentivizing for making consistent monthly payments, and incentives if parents participate in various state-approved programs. So that's it. And I will turn, believe the next portion of our program will be the impactful stories from parents. So I will turn this over for Ryan to facilitate. I think, Ryan, you're muted.
Yes, okay, thank you. I was saying I want to thank the parents for coming aboard to be able to tell their story. And this recording, is this recorded?
Yes.
Okay, so it's recorded. So I just want them to know, be aware of that. Um, so if they're willing to tell their story, and I appreciate them being here, spending their time here. We're going to give each one of them about 3 to 5 minutes. That's what we had talked about, to be able to tell their story. Um, Bobby, can I start with you? Since you're the lady here, can we start with you, Bobby?
Yes, that's fine. How are you guys doing today?
Appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here. You know, you've been really a big support. And so I just want to ask a question. I have this question here. And if you can just share, what has been your challenge with child support with regards to some of the barriers and challenges that you've had with child support? Can you just give us some information?
So for my case, my children were took by the state from me in 2011, and then they weren't returned. But then I started to have issues out of my oldest two, and it was scaring me because I didn't want to go back to jail. So I had to put them back in state custody. And when they went back, now I'm at almost $30,000 worth of child support. I still have two kids. I work a part-time job, and it's for my driver's license along with my fines. The stimulus check that I was supposed to receive went to child support, but with two kids on child support, luckily one of my daughters aged out of foster care, and I think I'm like owed like 7,000. But I have a 17-year-old that's in there, and the debt just keeps accumulating. If it wasn't for coronavirus pandemic hitting, which had me apply for food stamps because only working part-time wasn't going to be able to feed me and my two children in the house and pay California's rent. That's where my money was reduced. So it went down from $248 to $78. And I just know that I just feel like within the last 3-4 years, I've accumulated $30,000 worth of debt. And like with me having 6 felonies, being formerly incarcerated, work is hard to come by. That makes a livable wage. And so I just wanted to share that.
I just have a few questions. One of them is, have you been able to seek any kind of support or help through child support with regards to reductions in your child support? And the other question is, how has it affected you and your relationship with your children?
So the AFDC office, when I signed up for food stamps, they were able to have communication with child support, and that's where it was reduced from $240 a month to $74. And then as far as with my children, my one that is in foster care now, her social worker is constantly telling me about I need to pay the child support, and so I don't have the money to pay it, so I just have to wait till they start garnishing out my check, and because I don't have the money to pay for it, to pay that, pay rent, and take care of my children that I do have in the home. And so it's a strain because I have to, choose what I need to do with the little money I do have. So it doesn't give me, I still don't make enough money to be able to make all my visits and things like that with my daughter. So there is a strain.
Yeah,
and it makes my stomach hurt thinking about child support.
So it's affected you also, your physical body, as well as emotional.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to lift up my brother. His name is Ulysses Moore. He's in the Santa Barbara prison. He won't get out till 2038, but he's been in and out of jail since 2014. He had accumulated 4 children. The mother had got AFDC in Tennessee and in California. And like every time he did get out from doing 1 or 2 year stints, the child support made him feel like he had to stay in a life of crime. And so he kept going back to jail because he was trying to provide for his kids and trying to make things right with child support. So I just want to lift that up too, on my brother's behalf.
I understand. Thank you. Really appreciate you sharing your story with all of us. And hope you stay with the group. I'm sure you will, because you know some people in this group. So I hope you stay with the group and be a part of this coalition so we can help other families and children. Thank you, Bobby.
Correct. I will stay in the fight with you guys. Currently, right now, I'm looking into the barriers to help formerly incarcerated people have family reunifications with their kids that are languishing in the child welfare system. So I will keep my ears open. And thank you, Ivana, LSPC, and Rita Hines for giving me an opportunity to share me and my brother's story.
Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate you. Thank you. Now we have Danny, Danny M. He's a gentleman that I've been working with for some time now. I've known him for about 2 or 3 years. Danny, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so same question with you. What have been some of the challenges and barriers that you've had with regards to child support?
At first, with the child support issues that I've been having, it was usually not dealing with them directly, trying to plan based on the mother and my children at the time. So I had my issues with that, and going back with child support, actually dealing with it, helped me out a lot, especially with getting all the intel as working with you now. I've been able to make payments and keep jobs and not worried about them garnishing my whole check. They did take all my stimulus check, with that being the help with this pandemic, you know, that was supposed to be help for us, but they ended up garnishing it all. But luckily I was working at the time and I was able to get some kind of money, but then some of the money is being taken out of that check still. But that's mostly my challenge now. Interest was building up a lot. And I guess me being more guided more and actually taking the responsibility of where is it coming from and how to stop it, not just going based off of what the mother of my children was saying at the time. So that's been a major obstacle that I have overcame to do things more of myself, to get more intel myself instead of going based off of what somebody else is saying, like with the mother of my children. Now when my children not being with her and me trying to get custody of my daughters and working with the system, I've come to know a lot more and getting all this
Danny,
to where I need to be at.
Danny, can you tell us more about what was going on in regards to getting different stories from the mother of your children? What exactly are you, can you explain that a little bit better for us?
Yeah, I guess mostly she was saying like she wasn't putting child support on me. She was mostly just getting the government aid. I wasn't getting any assistance at the time. I didn't know how to go about that. So she was coming and staying with me at a time. And I guess at the time that she was staying with me, she was collecting government aid and saying that I wasn't being of any help. Or something like that. And then that's when the child support started collecting interest and I wasn't making payments. And I ended up going to jail, stuff like that. While I was incarcerated, things ended up being like that. So I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just ask you this last question. Is there anything that you see or you can think of that would be beneficial for you and the mother of your children from child support? What resources, what services that they might be able to provide for you to make it better for you and your children and the mother?
Just whoever's paying like the child support and being motivated into being there for my children, for our children, to get the resources, provide us with resources to be able to reunite or have some kind of interaction with our children.
Okay. All right, thank you. I really appreciate your input, information that you have for us. Now, did we want to go with Kareem? Did you want to share your story also?
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you.
Yeah, if that's what, yes, I can share my story. Did you want to ask me a particular question, or did you want me to just go ahead and?
Well, yeah, let me just ask you the same question I asked them. What were some of the barriers and challenges that you have with child support?
Yeah, so similar to Danny, I think it was just the lack of information and the transparency from the child support agency and myself. I was pretty, at the time that I had a child support case put on me, I had actually had full physical custody of my son for at least 7 to 8 months. He had been living with me. And so I got a letter from child support saying I owed $50,000 and I had never been involved in my son's life ever. And so that was just obviously not true. And I thought it would be an easy fix to go down to the office and just explain, hey, this is what's going on. But it wasn't. I just wasn't given the correct information, and the information I was given was more so that I needed to have physical custody on paper, which was obviously dealing with the custody systems rather than the child support system, which sent me on a wild goose hunt chase, so to speak. So yeah, I think it was just the lack of transparency, and I've kind of felt from the minute I walked in the door as if they looked at me as if I was lying and I was a deadbeat, and that there was no validity to my story. And it took about 3 months and me going and physically crying to someone at child support to show them, I guess, that I was serious. And then they gave me some information that kind of helped move along my case. But and similar to Danny, I feel like it was kind of my word versus her word, and I was telling them that, you know, my side of the story was true, but it took for them to finally get her to admit that what I was saying was true for them to believe my side of the story, which I had been telling the whole time. So I think it was, the lack of communication, the lack of trust, it seemed, and then it seemed that there was hurdles being put in my way rather than for them to help me to rectify the situation. You're on mute, Ryan.
What kind of effect do you feel that this whole situation with regards to child support played on you, the mother of your children, as well as your son?
Yes, it was obviously a strain on all parties, particularly between me and the mom. Obviously, that started, a custody battle and a child support battle. And from the time my son was about 2 until he was 13, we had been out of the courts and pretty much co-parenting, a quote unquote healthy co-parenting relationship. And so once that dynamic switched and we started going to court, then it kind of took us out of that mode of being co-parents and put us more as oppositions against each other, who were trying to fight and battle it out for this prize, which ended up being like fit time with my son. So it definitely put a strain on an already finicky relationship. So that definitely was the case. And so I don't feel like it was geared towards mending our relationship and that so we could better co-parent for our child, but it was more about putting one of us on child support and then the other one, getting one of us in the system, and then it just felt like it was more geared towards that.
Thank you all. I want to thank all of you. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Danny. Kareem, really appreciate all of you guys for sharing your story. Now, I guess we're going to go. I can't remember where we go from here. Can you help me
Yeah.
out?
It's the feedback. The way it is with feedback and idea sharing. Originally on the agenda, it's 40 minutes, but unfortunately, we're going to have to cut it short to like 10 or 15 minutes, and then the final part is the wrap up before it's scheduled to end at 3. So this is where we invite the service providers in particular to share, based on all the information we've covered and what other states are doing, what are their ideas and suggestions for improvement when it comes to the child support system, and based on what they've learned here and their own experiences working with clients.
I can go ahead and say for my organization, I know for the population that we work with, getting access to legal resources and somebody that can help them do things like even just simple as filling out paperwork, responding to child support orders, knowing what their rights are as the co-parent or as the non-custodial parent. So yeah, I would say that it starts with information, and I think that the child support can do a better job as it pertains to maybe not treating low-income fathers as deadbeat fathers, people that may fall behind on their child support, as we've all talked about. Some of those orders are pretty unrealistic compared to the income of the individuals. So, and gearing it more towards, I think, the brother at the beginning said it geared more less towards enforcement and more towards facilitating a scenario where a family has all the resources they need to healthily co-parent with children. So I think it just starts with information. I think it starts with education, and I think it starts with just changing some of the structures on how child support operates, which is kind of a broad answer, but yeah, that's kind of what I see from my work that I do.
And feel free, in particular, like Sacramento organization and the organizations we invited, Santa Cruz, any service provider is welcome to provide their feedback, ideas, and suggestions.
Well, what I like to say is I work with a group of men at the Salvation Army. And what I do, I collaborate with our local child support office and in getting child support to address their arrears. A lot of the men that come into the program, the Salvation Army, they've been incarcerated. So what I've been doing in the past, this is pre-COVID-19, is having them come and look at their child support arrears and to work with them in decreasing those arrears. And they've always offered the support of the COPE program. However, a lot of times with the men and having a stable address, because a lot of times they're in the program and once they complete the program, they move. And then the papers are sometimes difficult for the men to complete. I like to go back with a lot of things that Kareem had mentioned. Just being more aware myself, or having someone who's more aware of the child support system and the paperwork. It makes it really difficult for a lot of the men that I come in contact with, being able to complete the paperwork, submit it back to look at having their arrears decrease. Again, we haven't even spoken about the 10% interest rate as compound on these arrears. So yeah, that's been one issue that has been brought up. But truth and justice, and that's one of the areas that we've been addressing as well. But having someone with the know-how and being able to address these arrears and being able to be a contact person for fathers or parents in the community that they can go to. Child support, they have high caseloads just like any other government system. So a lot of times it's really difficult for parents to really connect and have a relationship with their child support worker to be able to work with them and completing the paperwork to decrease those arrears. One of the things that I brought up within the coalition is the interest in incentives, which some of the other states have been doing. That's some of the things I kind of been throwing out in our community with child support, as well as other individuals working with fathers in this whole child support arena. And so that's been an interest of mine in this with regards to addressing child support and looking at reform. So that's just my take.
That's great. Would Armando or Terry Moore like to provide any feedback?
I don't really have any feedback. I like the direction that this meeting has gone in, and I like that there's a movement on that it's being brought in the forefront, and there's a movement in action on it. So, no, nothing more from me.
Yeah, I have a similar take as Terry. I'm glad that it's going in that direction. I specifically found very interesting the, models where the parents know that some of their payments of debt will go to their families. I have seen parents in my program where they have complained about that, where they say, well, back then I couldn't pay because of this reason or that. I wasn't able to reduce the payments enough, and I was just not able to. I just didn't catch up with that. And then they're really, they are resistant to paying, or very, because they're financially suffering. And on top of that, they're not able, what they're paying back is not actually they don't feel is actually going to helping their families, which they feel they would like to do that at that point in the relationship. But then the payments to the debt are getting also, ironically, they're preventing them for helping more their families. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Does anyone else have ideas or feedback that they'd like to share?
Yeah, hi everyone, Terry with Children's Institute. I'm just kind of in a moment of reflection, really appreciate all the stories that were shared by our parents. And I think a few things that are just on my mind. One, I appreciated the chart, Jeannie, clearly California is not doing anything nearly as innovative, and there's a lot of states to look at. And so I love that chart. And I think that's something the coalition should hold on to, because there are kind of different categories of ways to rethink this. And it always kind of goes back to some of the things we grapple with at Project Fatherhood at Children's Institute. We've been around, our program's been around for 20 years, and it has really been focused on supporting fathers, kind of interpersonal through counseling and support through our men in relationship groups, supporting them to have healthy relationships and co-parenting relationships with mothers of their children, as well as economic stability. And so there's a variety of experiences and barriers along those. And so kind of through the work Ellie and I are doing is really kind of thinking how do we bring this up to systems policy conversations? So this is obviously the place to do it with the coalition, and then kind of what's next with that. I mean, one thing that still sticks with me, and I think it's also kind of what has been shared, and even what Kareem, you shared, I do think there is still in our system, there is a bigger narrative shift that needs to happen around fathers and parents. What does it mean to be connected fathers, present fathers, parents that want to see their children succeed? I mean, I think we still monetize and so that's why I love Ryan's discussion, and we've seen it across states. There are other ways to think about families staying connected, parents staying connected with their children. That's not about child support. This is it's kind of crazy that that's what we're doing, and it only continues to perpetuate those barriers. And so even what Bobby shared about child support in the child welfare system, that is a barrier to even reunify children with their families. It's just ridiculous. And so I guess for me, there's a narrative shift around that. Like, what do we mean by healthy whole families and good relationships between children and their parents, regardless of the parenting situation? Because I don't know, we're like still tying money to it. And there's so much more beyond that. We know that's critical. But I know in fatherhood, we're really thinking about like, what is the time spent with children and their fathers? So we've hosted different events where fathers do this tea time with their daughter. Like, there's just so many other ways to really rethink that. And so I know Ryan brings up incentives. It's something we look at here in LA County, where we're like, hey, child support office, how do we look at participation in other programs for non-custodial parents where it can actually, it reduces their debt. So I don't know, it's just something I've been thinking, and it's like even more affirmed by, our parents who are on this call. So just appreciate it, because I feel very energized that like, this is where we need to start to push the state on.
The good news is that when I went through the San Francisco study, the one that Rachel talked about earlier, it looked to me like there is some type of interest or movement at the state level, state child support department level, towards looking at the approaches used by other states with regard to their compromise of arrears reduction program, the debt reduction program we have here in California, and that the officials at that level are interested in finding out and learning about and learning what other states are doing. So that's very good news. And the aspect of parents, the contributions that parents make to children, but beyond just money, the time that parents spend with children, that's also a good, useful avenue to look at. And the closest I can think of as far as what other states are doing are things like incentives for like a parent education class, for that non-custodial parents can take advantage of. Another option might even be co-parenting. Does anybody else have any more feedback? I've been taking notes, by the way, about what the ideas, the feedback that people have brought, and it's. I definitely see momentum on our side.
That's because it's a broken system. The system's broken. There should be momentum. It's broken, and it's been unfair. It's an unfair system, and it's been that way for decades. Unfortunately, and I believe they know it, and I believe they understand that there's like a spirit in our nation now, as far as being unfair and helping people, being supportive of people, and not being punitive. This is from the old. This system's from the old DA. When DA was responsible for child support, and it still has a bit of a flavor to that. That's just my opinion.
Definitely. I think one thing that might be the wind at our back is the fact that a lot of this debt is just uncollectible, because of the states can't collect it. So that's one reason why they've been looking at other ways of addressing the situation. And then also, the other ideas people have raised, like I think a broader attitudinal change towards non-custodial parents, in particular low-income men, those parents who have been incarcerated, and and this includes obviously class, race, and gender, and sometimes people that work in child support, they may have certain attitudes and biases, and these just need to be addressed as we push for reform. So the next steps are, as listed on the agenda, is our coalition is going to put together a list, and I kind of have a rough draft of people's ideas and suggestions. And then we're going to, review it and then eventually present it to the state Department of Child Support. And we'll have suggested, policy reforms. So I'm very optimistic.
Hi, I have a question. I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity for us to kind of think about how we can just stop the accrual of debt in general, right? Because I think that's kind of like a root cause issue, is that like debt is being accrued, which also defers folks from paying child support. So I'm wondering, I think this kind of like forgives the debt, right? Is what we're thinking of. It's like opportunities to forgive it. But is there a way for us to think about how could we just like stop that accrual of debt, like abolish the debt, or why debt even happens? Because I think all the programs and initiatives should be happening. And anyways, like if there's an opportunity to do that, to build more connection and value within families, I think that's important. I'm just wondering if there is something where we could just stop the accrual of debt in general.
That's definitely an option that needs to be on our list. And I know, like New York, as I briefly went over, they've got a program for low-income parents where their debt is capped at $500 period, and that's kind of in a direction that you're talking about. Well, we're just a few minutes before the regular biweekly Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition meeting. That's usually it's typically at 3:00 every other Tuesday. So I want to thank everyone for coming, participating, taking precious time from your schedule, and I think we've done a great job, especially for the first time with this type of meeting. Hopefully it's not going to be the last of this type of meeting. We've got some very good, valuable information out of it, and we'll be working with it and moving forward to press for reform. So again, thank you so much, and feel free to. I sent you. You see, it's there. There is the Truth and Justice website, and I'm not sure if I can share it with you, but we can definitely forward it, to you, and invite you to learn more about our coalition, what we're all about, and become a greater part of the coalition if you would like to.
And Gina, I just have a question that said, if we have like more ideas, can we just kind of send them to you based on this? Yeah.
Definitely. I welcome all your ideas and feedback. If you didn't have time to bring anything up today, then you can bring it up later on.
Thank you.
I just want to put a plug in for Truth and Justice and Child Support. Attending the meetings, I've learned so much. I'm just humbled with all the knowledge in those meetings and having a better understanding about child support. I just want to say that. So if you at all possibility of thinking about getting into this whole arena of addressing this issue having to do with child support, I just encourage you to join the coalition. There's so much wisdom and knowledge, and you won't regret it. You won't regret it.
Definitely invite everybody to get on their email list so that at the very least they can be, brought to speed with all the developments that are going on. This group it's doing an incredible amount, especially for such a large state that we live in. So definitely invite all of you to get involved in the Truth and Justice and Child Support Coalition. So otherwise, everyone have a very wonderful afternoon, and thank you all for coming to our meeting. And there's a lot on our side.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hey, Jeannie.
Take care.
Sure. Okay.
Take care.
Have a blessed day. Thank you all.